Good day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing My Hero Academia chapter 3 or 4 and reviewing it. Um let's get into it. Of course, spoiler warning if you haven't seen or read the chapters yet. Um so yeah, let's begin. So this chapter starts off and we see All Might next to Midoriya in the hospital. Midoriya is still unconscious, of course, and All Might is holding his casted up hand. Remember, his whole body is in a cast. Um, and All Might says that he can feel one fall faintly inside of Midoriya. And we get like an inner monologue with Midoriya. And he's saying basically how everyone, he wants to know how everyone's doing. And he lists out all the persons that he's worried about. And he says, please be okay. And now we cut directly into the vestige world. And we see a huge double page spread with all of the users and Midoriya there in the vestige world, still covered up partially with the hazy smoke thing that covers him. Um, I actually colored this panel for the review, so I'll throw that up now. Um, so yeah, let's begin breaking down what happened and discussing it and reviewing it. So it wouldn't be in any particular order, I guess, but let's go with this first panel here now. If you look on the left side of the panel, we'd see the first user at the top and All Might at the bottom. So I'm guessing this is the order that they were in, the predecessors. So we see the first one, who's All for One's brother. He's there, and he's like, sorry to force this on you in such a trying time. Then we see the second and third user. One has short spiky hair, and one has like a ponytail with a headband. They're both facing the wall, while the others are sitting in these chairs in like a meeting kind of format with Izuku in front of them. Then we see the fourth is saying that this is destiny. Banjo is like it's just a matter of time and really not destiny. Um, the sixth user is like he says Banjo is his senpai, has already spoken to Izuku about this before. We see Nana there and we see All Might's vestige, which is kinda like a flame or his ember like he says. Um remember he says the embers of one for all or all for one, isn't it? Or I mix them up sometimes, my bad, but yeah. But basically if you look at this meeting that they're having, right? Two of the users are facing the wall. Why is this? So, I personally think that the reason they are hiding their identities is maybe because it's someone that Izuku knows and they don't want him to know just yet who they are, because it may affect his thinking or how he perceives things, or maybe they're just not ready to speak yet to him. But we have to wait and see. So I'm hoping that they show us more of this. We then see Izuku talking that basically all the predecessors are in his dream again, because remember they could have only speak to him when he's dreaming or unconscious. But All for One's brother mentions that before they could only speak to him like that, but now because of the fight with Shigaraki and One for All and All for One, this big battle that they had the war before, All for One tried to steal One for All, and in doing so, um, he drew them out of whatever they were in, kinda like they were in. I don't know how to explain it, but I would say like they were maybe in the depths of the quirk itself, and in him trying to absorb the power, he forcefully pulled the vestiges out of their holes, I guess. So they're now all visible and able to talk with him. And Banjo kiddingly says, he'll give him his privacy because I'm guessing they can't see and hear what Izuku sees and hear. And Izuku is trying to talk, but his mouth still hasn't manifest fully. And he's talking in broken language, but they still understand him. Um, and basically, this is saying that all the users now The quirk was in like a fragment, then in fragments, like 9 fragments, 8 fragments, and by them trying to all for one trying to absorb the power, it kind of melded everything into one. So we now get the fourth user trying to explain things better to Izuku, and we get his name. His name is Hikage Shinomori, um, and we find out that it was his power that Izuku was actually using, which we assumed danger sense is his, and he forcefully learned to use it. And we get Banjo and Shinomori there interacting, and Banjo is trying to hit him, basically clowning around with him, and he's dodging it. So his ability is similar to the Spider Sense then from Spider-Man, where it gives you a sense of danger and you could dodge beforehand. And Banjo calls him, a weirdo, and told him that he tells Izuku then that Hikage went to live the life of a hermit in the woods and be all by himself. So he was a weirdo then. And he's like, I wasn't the weirdo in my era. The other people were the weirdos. Um, and Shinomori asks Izuku if he knows how long he lived and what killed him. So Izuku is like, you died at 40, but I'm not sure what killed you. And they bring back up the notebook now, because remember earlier on in the arc, All Might wrote down something about the fourth user and scratched it off. And Shinomori now mentions that he died of old age, but he was only 40. So they go into breaking down why, and he says that basically Shinomori and Banjo back then had no idea as to why they died and why he died then. And the only reason he found out was because All Might's research, and we get more into that next. Um, Now we get some mention of the why I guess one fall can't be wielded by ordinary persons, like he said. So he mentions that he possessed one fall for the second longest time period behind All Might. Um, and we see he trains and he tries to get stronger because he knew he couldn't defeat One for All. No, All for One. One for All for. I mixed them up, but he couldn't defeat him. And he mentions that so he in knowing he couldn't defeat him, he tried to go on a mass power in the sense of training and strengthening the quirks and all of that. And he says in his final days, 2 cracks appeared on his face or on his body. Um, these cracks look similar to maybe Shigaraki, how he had his lips or skin cracking a little bit with his powers. So they say that he thought that he died because of some unknown disease, or maybe he didn't train hard enough. But now he sees that he died of old age and multiple quirks, or the possession of multiple quirks. And they got this information because basically um, All Might was able to get this information, and we find out later on, but I'm going to mention it now then. Um, Later on, we find out that All Might's vestige and his real body is still connected, because usually the consciousness or the soul of a person lives within their quirk or quirk factor, as we found out when All for One absorbed quirks. He said he would have nightmares of the owners taunting him. So we know now that the soul of a person lives in their quirk. So we basically know that's how it was supposed to be. However, we find out now that All Might had no quirk. And All Might is the first person to willingly put his consciousness into One for All. So whatever his real body sees and hears, I guess, or learns, the vestige in One for All also knows the information. So he was able to share that information with Shinomori and the others to find out how he died. And that brings us to us knowing now that, of course, All Might was quirkless. And this is what allowed All Might to live for so long. Because we get the explanation that a body is like compared to a glass of water, then an empty glass would be able to contain the quirk being one for all because it's empty. However, if a body has a quirk or two quirks, um, maybe like Shoto or the other, like Shoto and his two quirks, or someone else who has a quirk, when you add the quirk on top of that, again in reference to a glass, it overspills and uses up your life force. So we get the fact of the matter then saying that the perfect candidate really was All Might and now Izuku because they're both quirkless. Um, and they mentioned that the quirk is getting stronger, and basically Deku might be the last one to have it because they can't afford to pass this quirk on to anyone else because it might kill them, or maybe he could pass it on to a quirkless person if he finds one. But all in all, is like I guess granting death on someone if you give them it, they're going to die young because their own quirk and this quirk together, because it's like 9 different powers. Well, not 9, because All Might and Izuku don't have powers, but you know what I mean. It's like 7 powers plus, I guess, Izuku and All Might in the Vestige World as well. If he passes it once, it would be too much for someone else to handle. And then we get the panel where they officially say, you might be the last, we love it. And we get Nana now, and she asks Izuku if he would be able to kill Shigaraki, and the chapter ends there essentially. So I know this review was all over the place because it had a lot of information. So I just want to go back to the main page of this, and that being the first page with all the users sitting down. So we see the Vestige World kinda is in shambles after the fight because they're sitting in this room, the walls are broken and everything. But again, as we see number 2 and 3 are facing the wall. And I'm going to put this out now. I'm going to just say this is my opinion and what I think or who I think those two are. So if you don't want to know that, you can feel free to click away now. But this is my prediction then. I'm thinking, I could be wrong, but if we look at the second user who's facing the wall, we can see he has on a kind of jacket, but ignoring the jacket aspect, the little kind of small thing covering him maybe looks like a bulletproof jacket, but it probably isn't. But that being said, if you look at his hand, there's 2 gauntlets, and that reminds me of Bakugo. I know there's been theories about Bakugo earlier on being the second user in time travel. I'm not sure about all of that, but I'm just saying from this design, it looks a lot like Bakugo. So that's why I colored it that color in this picture here, wherever I throw it up. Next, the third user has spiky hair. We see his design, he has a lot of pockets on, his arms are showing, and he has on a headband. I think this is Kirishima, maybe. Again, there were theories that Kirishima was the second user and he is actually Red Riot, or Red Riot is a version of him, and he admired himself and became kind of like a loop. So I'm not sure, but I think it's Kirishima. My justification for all of this basically is I think and assume this because why are the 2 others hiding their faces? As I said earlier on in the review, it could be that they're just not ready to speak to Izuku yet, but this is an important meeting that they're having, and I would assume that they would want to share their experience with him too. So maybe next chapter we get that. If not, then I don't know, but I'm just going to assume that the reason they're not showing their faces is because they know if they show their faces to Izuku, it would kind of hit home, and he would probably feel sad or broken knowing that two of his friends actually were killed using this quirk to try to stop this villain. And that would bring into question if Eri was sending them back in time, or what exactly happened. Um, so yeah, I also would like to add the fact that if that theory is true, then that means Izuku may be able to be more durable with the aspect of using his full cowl 100%, or just the power in general where his bones shatter, because now if he has the hardening, it would be he would be able to make his arms or legs denser when throwing punches and kicks, so it wouldn't fracture or break that easily. And maybe he could add Bakugo's explosion into punch, so kind of like I think in Naruto there was, in one of the filler episodes in the final war, there was someone who had the explosion and he used taijutsu, and when he hit you, you would explode. If I get a clip of it, I'll add it right here so you'll see what I'm speaking about. But I think it might be similar. He could probably do something similar to that if this is both Baku and Kirishima. Next, let's also look at all the quirks we have present here now. So we know the first user is the stockpile quirk. So that's 1. We know Nana is float. So that's 2. We know the 4th is danger sense. So that's 3. Banjo is black whip. That's 4. We still don't know what the 6th user is. We know All Might had no quirk. So we'll count that as 5 because we're going through the people. So quirkless. We still don't know what the 2nd and 3rd users are. So yeah, and the 6th user with the high color, we don't know his quirk either. So I'm interested to see how they take this and what the other 3 quirks would be that we get, because we still have the 6th, 2nd, and 3rd users quirk to get to. So if you all have any ideas on what it may be, let me know down below. But all in all, I think this was a great chapter. A lot of exposition internally, telling us more about the vestiges and what happened, and explaining the powers and how deadly they are, and the effect it takes on the body. And we see just why All Might managed to live the longest life out of all of them, being quirkless, was to his advantage then. So it didn't drain his life force. So yeah, I guess the same would apply for Izuku. It would not drain his life force. However, again, the rate at which this quirk is growing, it is still injuring his body every time he uses it, because he goes beyond plus ultra and injures himself in all his fights. So he needs some type of buff then, I guess, to stop that. So again, that's why I come in with the Kirishima aspect, so that he would get a buff being hardening. And again, the one that looks like Bakugo purely because of the gauntlets. I mean, it could be wrong, but I'm just saying it looks fully like Bakugo. So again, if you guys enjoyed this, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.